Welcome to Walking in Your Purpose. This is Thursday night 8 with Lens of Faith. It's time to discover the gift God has for you. I'm bringing awareness to what God has for you and the purpose behind your pain. If you have passion in your soul and a gift you haven't unleashed, well, let's talk about it. Having served in the United States Army for the last 18 years and continuing to serve as a servant leader to inspire, motivate, guide, and assist readily, I'm bringing a contemporary vibe to being happy and living your dream on purpose. Each week, I will introduce you to a life filled with purpose and how that purpose is being used to glorify God, prescribing the tips, resources, and strategy to set you up for success. So now, let's jump right in and discover the gift God has for you.
Good evening, everyone. I am a Lens of Faith, and tonight we have a very special guest on our show. We have Dr. Rhonda Lawson. You all may not know her, but after reading her bio and learning a little bit about who she is, how she's maneuvering, and the things that she has brought to the forefront of this very world, I would like to introduce you all to her. Good evening, Rhonda. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. I was about to ask you who you were talking about.
Well, I'm not done yet because I want to let everybody know who you are and what you have done thus far.
Okay.
Dr. Rhonda Lawson is the founder of Meet the World Image Solutions, LLC. She's an award-winning author of Cheating in the Next Room, and she contributed to 11 anthologies. She's the host of the weekly talk show Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions, which highlights and promotes authors and other literary professionals. Dr. Rhonda Lawson is a 23-year Army veteran, having served in Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation New Dawn. Dr. Lawson's career as a soldier journalist has taken her all over the world, okay? And her stateside work has been featured in the Army Times, Soldier Magazine, and the Seattle Times. She has also taught journalism at the Defense Information School and served as an adjunct professor for the University of Maryland College, Europe. She is currently the director of publications for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and the literary correspondent for National Black Book Festival, which takes place in Houston each October. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Communication Studies, Master's of Human Relations, and a doctorate in Business Administration with an emphasis in organizational leadership. She recently added playwright to her repertoire in 2018 when she adapted Cheating in the Next Room into a stage play. She plans to turn more of her books into a stage play. Dynamic female, okay? Dynamic female. After reading her bio, I was like, oh my goodness. Thank you, God, for connecting me with her. We want to hear from you tonight. Yes, we do. I'm glad to have you on.
Thank you so
much. Yes. So, I was, as I was reading through who you are and looking at your website and things of that nature, I was like, oh my goodness, what are some of the best questions I can ask her to really get to the nitty gritty of everything that you have done? I really believe that your story needs to be heard. And just like you birthed Meet the World Image Solutions, you are a part of this world, and we need to know more people like you. So tell us about, at the ripe age of 12, you really began your journalism career back then, writing as a child, and it has truly blossomed ever since. So tell the listening audience what writing really means to you.
Well, I think when I was growing up, I actually worked with a lady who knew me back in elementary school, and she told me one day, she goes, who would have thought that little shy girl back in elementary school would turn out to be doing all of this? And I think I actually was shy. And a lot of times I would think back on a situation and say, I wonder what would have happened if I had said this or if I had done that. And I think that's kind of what got me into wanting to read books. And then I went from reading books to wanting to write my own books. I was always a reader back in school. And I think that's why people thought I was as shy as I may have been. Because if there was a book, I was picking it up and I was reading it. the librarians knew my name because I was always in the library. And then when I got around 11 or 12 o'clock, I said I wanted to write my own stories. I never published them, but I wrote my own stories, and I would actually give them to my friends so they could read the story, and they all seemed to like it. And so I realized that I had a bit of a passion and a bit of a talent for it. And as I went through the years, that was my thing. I was always writing, whether it was writing poetry, writing books, writing papers, all of that. I just enjoyed writing. And it's something that I continued to do even after I left college and joined the Army. When I was in the Army, I was a journalist, a print journalist. So I was always writing. I think it's always just been a part of me.
Amen. Some people are just gifted with that talent, and when you write, you just write and keep on writing. You know, it has very well become a pivotal point of excellence for you. Tell us how you feel about, you know, your passion as a child and how it has become a pivotal point of excellence for you.
I think that a pivotal point of excellence is actually kind of interesting that you say that, because there have been times when I was in school and I may have been struggling with a subject, but because I was a good writer, I was able to kind of get through it because I was able to write in such a way where sometimes I looked like I knew more than I really did because I was able to write. And it's something that stuck with me. So when you mentioned before, I was an adjunct professor, and I remember I was teaching a class when I was stationed in Belgium. And the first time I had to grade these people's papers, they got upset with me. They were like, "Oh, she grades so hard." But my thing is, I'm like, I don't want to push you through just because you're trying to get through the course. I want you to feel like you learned something. I want you to be able to accomplish something, and I want you to be able to demonstrate a knowledge for the subject. So yeah, I might grade you a little bit harder. And I did the same thing when I was teaching at the Defense Information School. I remember I didn't overhear, one of my colleagues overheard it, but students said, "Man, I got my paper back and I didn't know whether to correct it or to give it a tourniquet because there's just red ink all over it." And it's not that I try to just be hard on people. It's just that writing is such a big part of us. I mean, we see it on Facebook all the time. "Oh, thank you, Beverly." One of my former soldiers, she just said that I was beautiful and amazing. And so are you. I'm so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished. And congratulations on your retirement. And thank you, Diana, true superwoman. Thank you. But what I was saying, I got all carried away. People started saying nice things about me. But no, I just enjoyed writing. Writing, the thing is, we see it on Facebook all the time. We see people who say, "Hey, I'm an author. I have so and so many books." But then when you look at their Facebook posts, the grammar isn't there, the spelling isn't there, and we think that we can just depend on the editor to fix it for us. But I think sometimes we forget that people judge us on what they see, and writing many times is the first thing that people see when they meet us. So if we write something in such a way where people have to read it 4, 5, 6 times to figure out what it was you were trying to say, many times you're not going to get your point across, and you're not going to get your message across, because people are going to just give up on it, and they're going to think that you have less intelligence than you may actually have. And I think that's why writing has always been such a passion of mine, because that's what I know. That's what people see. And if people are going to judge me before they meet me, I want them to judge me fairly based on my talents.
Amen. Writing is, you know, very unique art that we all need to be, you know, gifted in order to get our point across appropriately, I should say. And a lot, you know, I wasn't a great writer at first, and I gradually learned how to write better and better and better. And it took time. It definitely took time, and I had to be aware in order to know how to fix it.
Yes. And it does take time. I mean, nobody is expected to be a perfect writer. You're not going to be Shakespeare or Maya Angelou overnight. It does take a lot of work. And actually, believe it or not, I believe I was reading something from Alice Walker, and she said that she edits herself very heavily. I believe she said one time she had 15 pages of copy, and she edited it so heavily that when she finished, it was only 2 pages.
Wow.
So don't think that just because you are a great writer and because you've written so many books that you don't have anything else to learn. Eric Jerome Dickey once said that he's written so many books and then hardly any of them are alike because he's always trying to improve. He reads writing books all the time so he can refine his technique. And so I guess that's why I have an issue with many authors who feel like they don't have anything else to learn, or they think they can just depend on the editor to fix it for them and they can just write whatever. We all need practice. And as long as I've been writing, and I do consider myself a pretty good writer, I'm still looking for ways to learn. I'm actually looking for, since I've been doing a lot more editing, I'm actually looking for a class that I can go to so I can refine my editing technique. Because many times we wind up getting bad habits. We write so much, we have a bad habit. And I know I probably have a lot of bad habits when I write. So I can't force those bad habits on somebody else when I'm editing their work. So I'm looking for a class that I can take so I can just continue to refine my editing skills and then also stay current on the changes in writing. There are a lot of changes in the writing rules that we may not think about all the time, but they're out there. And if we don't stay on top of them, I'm sorry?
Give me one.
Okay, for instance, a few years ago, the word soldier was always written with a lowercase s, but it's changed now to where soldier, marine, those are written with capital letters because they're titles.
Right.
So that's one thing. And then there's the comma. There are so many different rules for the comma. For instance, when you're writing a series, some people put the comma before the and, which is called the Harvard comma. And then some people do not put the comma before the and. Many times we don't always know when the comma should go before the and. If I'm doing a really difficult series or a complex series, I'm going to put that comma before the and. So there's so many things. I can't be teaching the English lesson. You're trying to conduct your interview.
Well, I wanted to know that because that's very important because as a current writer and being in a group of writers, I really think that we need to understand that there are changes in the writing world that we need to be aware about. And that's when we need to pick up those writing manuals and say, hey, let's take a look at what these changes are. And, you know, a lot of people, because I just finished the anthology this year and I'm working on another anthology and I'm working on my current book, you know, that's very important to know that there are changes. And I wanted you to give me 2 or 3 real quick because I was kind of interested to hear what you was going to say about that. And I understand about the S in the soldier, you know, it has to be capitalized now. You know, sometimes I remember back in the day where it was always lowercase. Yes. And now when I do see it, it's always uppercase. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you brought that home for me. And I really recognize that because I've been seeing it in magazines. I've been seeing it in books and I see it in the regulations and things of that. So, yes, I can definitely identify with that.
No, we kind of nerded out sometimes when we were at Defense Information School. I remember actually just having conversations and debates on how certain things should be written. I remember one time I gave a student a 100. I thought she did a great job. And one of my colleagues said, man, let me see that. I bet you she won't have 100 after I finish looking at it. You know, that was kind of what we did. You know, we were always arguing about, should you put a comma before as? If I say something like, he said as he walked down the street, should I put a comma before the as? Some people say yes. Some people say no. I don't put the comma before the as, but there are some people who say you should put the comma before the as. And so that's why I said it's so good to go and find out what's actually real instead of just forcing our bad habits onto people when we're editing.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this award-winning status that you hold as an author now of several books and 11 anthologies you have been a part of, to include Cheating in the Next Room. So tell the listening audience, what gave you the drive to write your very first book?
Technically, I wrote my very first book when I was 12. I just never did anything with it. One day I'm gonna find those books. I'm sure that they're probably in a box all tucked away somewhere, but I might find it and actually do something with it. Maybe I can turn it into like a young adult book or something like that. But that's, yeah, I actually wrote back then, but Cheating in the Next Room was actually my first adult full-length novel. And I actually started writing that book in 1997. But I didn't do anything with it. Well, I take that back. I'm going to admit, and I've admitted this a couple of times, I had no idea about the publishing process. I had no idea how it worked. All I knew is I wanted to write a book. And one day I was on Eric Jerome Dickey's website.
Wow.
And he used to let people comment, and I uploaded my whole book to ask him if he can look at it.
Well, hey, that's a way to do it. That is a way to do it.
I didn't see that book. I'm sure he didn't. But years and years later, after Cheating in the Next Room was actually published, I was doing a book signing here in New Orleans. And he was at the book signing. It was about maybe 4 or 5 authors. We were all signing, and he bought my book, that same book. So Eric Jerome Dickey is always going to be my favorite author. And I think one of the reasons, not only because I believe he's a great writer, because he is a great writer, but it's just because he is very down to earth. He doesn't mind talking to people. And as long as he's been in the game and as much as he's written and as many accolades as he's gotten, he has never felt that he was too good to talk to anybody. And so that's one of the things I really enjoyed about him. And I got to interview him when I was at the National Black Book Festival this past October. And we had such a great interview. That interview is still on my Facebook page, Meet the World Image Solutions. And it was just a great conversation. A lot of people were there asking questions, and we were able to get questions answered, and he answered every question.
That's amazing. Every question. He was right there.
Yep.
So you've done 11 anthologies. You've done this 11 times already. I've only done it once. I'm about to do it twice. Give us 3 tips on writing an anthology. What is the 3 most important things we need to know about anthologies?
Okay, well, one of the things is, remember, it's an anthology. You're not writing a full-length book. So you have to get to the point a little bit faster than you would if you were writing a full-length book or a full-length novel. So sometimes in those cases, you do kind of have to, what's the word? You want to organize yourself. You don't want to spend too long on one subject, because you have to get to the end of the book. If they tell you that your story can only be 5,000 words, you have to stick to that. So that's one thing. Maybe organizing yourself and remembering that you have to get to the point a little bit sooner. You also want to find out if the anthology has a theme, and you want to be able to stick to that theme. One of the anthologies I contributed to was called Second Chances. And we all enjoyed writing it because it was basically about people having a second chance at something, whether it be a second chance at a relationship, a second chance at a friendship, maybe second chance at a job, but they were all about second chances. So each person who wrote a book had to talk about a second chance. Me, I didn't want to write another love story. So I decided to write my story about people who had a second chance at friendship. There were 2 ladies. One heard a whole bunch of negative about the other lady. The other lady heard a whole bunch negative about that lady. And for a long time, they never liked each other. They never spoke to each other. But one day they were forced to work together. And when they had to work together, they already had this attitude. They didn't like each other. They're, thinking negative things about each other. And then as they got to talking, they realized that they had more in common than they realized. And so they had a second chance at friendship. And I wanted to write that because, you know, we see that a lot, especially we as Black women. You know, I heard she's like this, or my girl doesn't like her, so I'm not gonna like her either. I went through that so much. Just because one person didn't like me, her friend couldn't like me either, you know. And that's why I never try to talk negatively of somebody else, because I don't feel like you can't like somebody just because I don't like them, or vice versa. So I wanted to write that story just about friendship, about how we can be friends and not just automatically start thinking the negative about somebody. Another anthology I wrote, I actually contributed to about 2 or 3 different anthologies with Zeta Phi Beta. We have a collection of anthologies that align with our ideals. So the first one was called Keeping It Finer, which was all about finer womanhood. So I wrote my story based on my journey of becoming a finer woman, and the people who came into my life who helped me to refine that journey. I wrote another one about scholarship, and I talked about my journey with my education, going from when I left college, when I left Loyola University and joined the Army, and how I promised my grandmother I was still going to get my degree. And that traveled all the way up to when I got my doctorate. And about, oh my goodness, why am I doing this to myself? You don't know how many times I asked myself that question when I was up until 6 o'clock in the morning and had to be at work at 8. So I'm just letting you know that's going to happen. Yeah, so I talked about that journey. I talked about, and in that same story, I talked about how I was stationed in Korea and I wanted to finish my classes. I wanted to continue taking classes. So I would actually leave work at 4 o'clock and I would take the bus over to the train station. And then I would take the train from there all the way back to Seoul. And actually not even, yep, I had to take it all the way back to, no, not even Seoul. What's the other place where we used to always go shopping? Oh, goodness. I can't think of it. I can't think what it is. Hey, you talk, my Ladies Who Lunch and Support sister. There was another place where we used to always go shopping. I can't think of what it is in Korea right now. But people who have been to Korea are going to know what I'm talking about. But I had to catch the bus, the train all the way there, and then take a cab from the train station to the base where the class was taken. And I did that every day for 7 days because I wanted to take that class. And I would get back so late. I would get back like just before curfew because we actually had curfew in Korea. And I remember the first time I did it, I messed up the train system so bad that I never made it back to my base. I had to go knock on my friend's door who lived in Seoul. I said, girl, can I sleep on your floor? I'm never going to make it back in time for curfew. And I had to call my supervisor. I was like, look, I messed it up. I'm not going to get back in time. I'm going to be locked out. I'm just letting you know where I am. He started laughing at me. But, that was what I did because I wanted to get my education. And so my message in that is that we make time to do what we want to do. I knew I wanted to get my education. Some people probably would have said, I'm not doing all of that. That class is way over and so. That's an hour or so away. I'm not doing that. But if that's something that we really want, if it's a goal that we're really trying to reach, we're going to do it. And that was my goal. I wanted to continue my master's program, and that's what I had to do. I did the same thing when I finished my when I got ready to finish my master's program. I was about to deploy to Iraq, and so I took a week off from work and traveled all the way to Florida so I can take this class. That was in Florida. I did that because I wanted to finish my degree before I got on that plane and deployed to Iraq.
Well, it's all about what we commit ourselves to.
Absolutely.
That essence, to be willing to commit to a routine, to a schedule, and commit to an opportunity that will advance us to the next level. And, people may ask you, I wouldn't do that, or why would you want to do that? That's too far. Why would you go over there? Well, it's not about them. It's about what your personal excellence looks like. What somebody else's does might not be what you have to do. I drive up and down the highway to visit my family in Tampa. I've heard people tell me I wouldn't do that. You crazy. But it's not about them. I was doing it because I love my husband and my kids. So I drive back and forth and do what I need to do for, to have that support taken care of.
Yes.
But, there's some people that wouldn't do it, and that's them. And I'm me. But hey,
there you go.
Different folks.
You said that's them and I'm me. Absolutely. Yep. I think a lot of times we do live our lives, and it was something I had to learn myself. We live our lives based on what we think others might say or what others might do. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, we hold ourselves back from certain things, and we may miss out on opportunities. And so, and just like you said, you have to do what's good for you. You're you and I'm me, so to speak.
So, talking about these anthologies, like I said, I've only done one so far, and I'm in the process of doing another one. And I've always thought about it as a group of people, whether it's, men and women or all women, but just so happened I've been a part of all women anthologies. What can you tell us about getting with a group of people that you don't know and trying to compile your stories to create one big story? Talk about that a little bit for a second.
Believe it, there are going to be times where you're going to contribute to an anthology and you don't know anybody else in the book. That's why it's very important to follow the guidelines that are set forth when you're first given the anthology. Hey, I want you to take part in this anthology. I'm going to give you a set of guidelines. You've got to follow those guidelines because you're not going to know everybody. Yeah, there have been times where a bunch of us got together and said, hey, let's create this anthology. I mean, I did that with Second Chances. Even though I didn't know everybody who was in Second Chances, I was still familiar with them, and we kind of knew where we wanted to go with that anthology. We had another one that was the same way. It was called it was called Crimes of Passion. So every story had to deal with a crime of passion. And I didn't know everybody, but it was also a good way to get to know people because we all kind of emailed each other and we all knew what we were doing. So I actually took about 2 or 3 different authors who were in the anthology, and we said, hey, let's switch stories and read each other's stories. And that's what we did. And it helped. Somebody was able to give me tips on my story. I was able to give somebody else tips on their story. And another thing was like with the Zeta Phi Beta anthologies. I told you there were so many different ones that corresponded with our ideals. I edited those, and that really gave me a chance to learn a lot about the ladies who were in my sorority. Because we got to actually talk. I was actually able to reach out to these ladies and say, hey, I liked your story. Can you do this with it? Or do you think you might be able to elaborate on that? And many of them did. And I was able to really learn much more about them by doing that. So
you all kind of share stories a little bit so you can help one another.
Exactly.
Okay. That was before it went to the editing phase, or
before it went to the editor. Now with the sorority anthologies, I was the editor for a lot of them. So they were already coming to me. But with some of the other anthologies that I contributed to, I was not a part of those. I was not a part of that editing process. But if I happened to know another contributor, we would exchange stories. So we could help each other out before it went to the editing process. And it's a good way to, learn from other people. It's a good way to get to know other authors, because you really do want to know other authors. If you're going to be in this industry, it's best to get to know other authors. You learn from them, you share with them.
Right? Especially the authors that you're writing on the project with.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's essential with the anthologies. The ladies or whoever is writing the anthology needs to know one another. We need to have some type of bonding session, whether that's a webinar or a conference call or some sort, in order to learn who each other are, and what we're about, and what it is that we may even be wanting to write about. Because oftentimes over the last couple of months that I've been dealing with anthologies, I've noticed that some of the authors, they don't know where to start. They don't know what to write. They don't know, which event in their life that they want to write about, because they're just blind, because they've never done it before. So that's where, if you've written an anthology, you can kind of kick in some tips, give a little, some tools and resources. And if you got a book manager helping, that makes it even better, so they can feel more comfortable about what they're entering into, because a lot of people have never written before. They want to get their story out there and they just don't know how.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Nalena Kai, she actually headed up 2 different anthologies, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the editors for that anthology. And she's gonna fuss at me because she's been waiting on me to write my own stuff for a while. I haven't written my own book since I started this whole doctoral process. I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna do it. I promise. Before 2019 is out, I will have a new book. That's all I'm gonna say. Put it out there.
We're gonna hold you to that, Dr. Lawson. We're gonna hold you to that, because you got to get that book out there.
Exactly.
Out there. As a champion of all things literary, tell the audience how you birthed Meet the World Image Solutions LLC, and tell us what your brand provides. Talk a little bit about that.
I would love to answer that. So, one day I was watching TV, and I'd be watching these interviews, and the people who were conducting these interviews, I couldn't understand a word they were saying. Because they were like, well, everyone, we're going with the team, and and I was like, what are they talking about? And then you had some people, you could understand what they were saying, but they were so abrasive when it came to the media. And I'm like, I could really help that person. Because I was doing it in the Army. I mean, being a journalist, I wasn't just a journalist, I was a public affairs specialist. So there were times where I was preparing colonels and generals to get ready for interviews with the media. And I was writing their speeches for them. I was writing their talking points. And I said, I would love to be able to do this for some of these athletes out here, for some of these authors. With authors, many of them, I've found there are some people out there who are wonderful storytellers, but they may not be strong writers. And then there are some who are strong writers, but they may not be strong storytellers. And I wanted to be able to help them with that. I mean, it's like I said, I think I'm a good writer, but there are going to be times where I'm going to need somebody to kind of help me out a little bit, help me to make this story a little bit stronger. What am I missing? Which is why beta readers are gold. And I've been using beta readers a lot. I'm like, hey, read this for me. Let me know what you think. But this is where Meet the World Image Solutions came from. I wanted to be able to help people with their images. And that would be images when it comes to writing, their image when it comes to their presence when they're on television or in magazines, basically in the media. I wanted to be able to help people to network. There are people who go to a networking event and the first thing they do is go find somebody who either looks like them or somebody they know already. And they don't get out there to meet other people. And then there are some people who lead with their business card. Hi, my name is Rhonda Lawson. And all of a sudden you're sticking a business card in their face. The person probably doesn't want your business card. Or maybe they don't properly align with you. Or maybe they wanted to get to know you before they asked for your card. So that was something else I wanted to do, is help people to network, help people to see other parts of the world. Eventually, I'm going to be doing networking trips where we take people to other countries, and they'll not only network with each other, but network with people who are in other countries. And maybe that's a chance that they can get to learn from other people and then make some international connections. Then that makes us all stronger when we're not just in our own little bubble. So that's where Meet the World Image Solutions came from. And that's what I've been doing. I started the company like a month after I moved back to the United States. And a month after I started the company, I was hosting my very first event, the New Orleans Black History Month Literary Weekend. We're going into our 3rd annual event this February. Um, has everything always been successful? No. Have I learned a lot in the process? I have. Am I continuing to learn? Yes, I am. Have I helped a lot of people? I believe I have. Are there some things that I wish I could have done a little bit better? Of course, but that's all a part of growing. I've done a lot in these couple of years that I've been a company, and sometimes I have to remind myself to pace myself because I have only been in business for not even 2 years yet. February will make 2 years, and but I'm very proud of what we've been able to do with Meet the World Image Solutions. I'm starting to take in new people. I have an associate publicist, Miss Clarissa Newberry Lang, who's also the current Mrs. Louisiana Universal 2019. So she's a part of the company now. I'm also bringing in a social media expert. Actually, one of my sorority sisters, Miss Lorian Jones. She's going to be doing social media. My mom even joined the business. She's going to be doing the admin for me. Yes, yes. So the company is growing. We're expanding. And one thing I had to learn is I needed to bring in other people, because trying to do it myself, yeah, I might have saved a couple of dollars because I was able to do it myself without paying somebody else. But it was not done with the excellence that it needed to be done because I was trying to do everything myself. Yeah. 2, I was wearing myself out. I was so burnt out trying to do everything myself. So my lesson to that is, don't try to do everything yourself. There are going to be times where you may have to spend a couple of dollars and get somebody else to do it, even if you know how to do it. Right. Because your time is something that you're never going to get back. You're only given one life in this world. And if you give yourself a heart attack or an anxiety attack because you're trying to do everything yourself, you're not going to be a service to anybody. So that's a lesson I had to learn the hard way, but I'm glad that I learned it.
Amen. This is Thursday Night at 8 with Lens of Faith. I am a Lens of Faith. Tonight, I'm interviewing a dynamic woman of purpose, Dr. Rhonda Lawson, who is the founder of Meet the World Image Solutions, LLC. And she has a host of other talents and expertise that she is sharing with us tonight. Thank you all for joining. If you are watching a replay, please hashtag replay. So, Dr. Lawson, let's talk a little bit about you being not only just a dynamic writer and an author, but also how you turned your literary art into your international speaking platform. How has that impacted the world, utilizing the vision that you set out for Meet the World Image Solutions, as a writer, as an author? How has that now impacted your international speaking platform?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question. I think that one of the reasons why I've been able to be an international speaker is because I was able to basically affect people who I came into contact. So I was invited to Korea to speak because I had sorority sisters who knew what I was about. I spoke in Germany. I remember the reason I spoke in Germany, I was helping my sorority chapter put together our it was a Black History program. Actually, it was not it was a Finer Womanhood program, but we had a Black History theme. And we were trying to think of a speaker. And I just happened to mention to another sorority sister who didn't even live in Germany at the time. I said, we're looking for a speaker. She said, well, why don't you speak? I said, me? I said, well, I guess I can. Let me ask him. And so I went to my president and said, I don't mind speaking. She said, I would love for you to speak. And I went back to my sorority sister and I said, well, they said they want me to speak. She went, told you. So that's how I was able to speak there. And I was able to speak in Korea because other people knew me. And then I was invited back to Germany after I had already left Belgium. I was invited to come back to Germany and speak in a Martin Luther King program. And so basically that's how I've been able to get out. People, because I talk to people and I try to stay consistent with what it is that I believe in. And if you look at my Facebook posts, I'm always talking about our history. I'm talking about unity. I'm talking about all of these things. So people know that this is my platform. And so they'll ask me to speak on what they know is my platform. I actually was just invited to Savannah to speak. And so I'm really looking forward to going back there, and because I love Savannah, absolutely love Savannah. And invited to go back there to speak. And I'm looking forward to that as well. I mean, I've always been about empowering women, which was what my dissertation was all about. I wrote my dissertation on the angry Black woman syndrome and how it affects African American female leaders. Many times, African American women, we're automatically thought of to be this angry woman or this woman with an attitude. We're going to be difficult. And sometimes, because we try so hard to disprove that, we wind up being indecisive, because if I tell them I don't agree, they're going to think I'm being difficult. Or we start to not be able to find ourselves because we're so busy trying to be what we think people want us to be. And many times that's because of that angry Black woman syndrome. And so that's the reason why I wrote my dissertation on it. So everything that I've ever done has always been about empowering women, bringing women together. It's always been about embracing our history. I absolutely love our history. I think we as African Americans have a beautiful history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all beautiful. And a lot of it is lost because we're at an age now where our younger people think that we're just stuffing Black history down their throats. So sometimes they try so hard to not feel like, I don't want to do everything Black. And so they go in a completely different direction. It was something I struggled with my daughter for a while. And I guess that's why I love the TV show Blackish, because he went through that as well. But now my daughter, she loves her history as well. And she continues to learn more and more about her history. And she's attending an HBCU right now. And I never thought that would happen at one time. But I like to think it's because she got to learn more about her history. So I think because I stay consistent with that, I think that affects people in certain ways. And that's why I've been able to be invited to so many different places to be able to speak on this. Because I've noticed that most of the time when I'm called to speak, it's going to be on African American history, or it's going to be on women's empowerment. There's only been one time I've spoken on something totally different. And that's when I was invited to England to speak at a breast cancer awareness program. And even then, I still put in some history, and I still put in some women's empowerment into the speech.
I would love to read your dissertation. I would love to read that.
Okay, we can make that happen.
I would love to read it. I'm very interested in reading that. So yeah, please let me read it. I wanna take a read. Yes.
Definitely.
I want to see your point of view on that. Absolutely. So when you think about some of the great things you've done as an Army veteran, a writer, an author, international speaker, a playwright, a soror of Zeta Phi Beta, Sorority Incorporated, the Eastern Star, journalist, and an advocate for change, an overall advocate for change. If you don't mind sharing, what is maybe one or two of the challenges that you faced in your life that led to such a successful journey?
Well, that's a good question. I think that one thing was when I left college and joined the Army, I didn't want to leave college, but I couldn't afford to stay in college. And so I wanted to continue to pursue my education. And the more I pursued my education, I guess sometimes I would get a little sad because I would see many soldiers who didn't take advantage of pursuing their educations as well. And so as a leader, I was always telling my soldiers, make sure you go to college, go take a college class, do what you have to do. I mean, I met soldiers who had been going to school for like 8 years, and they were just getting their associate's degree because they took a class where they could. I'll take a class here, I'll take a class there until I could finish. And so for me, and I mentioned it earlier in the interview, I knew I wanted my education. I knew I wanted to pursue my education, and I wanted to do everything that I could to get it. So, and it wasn't always easy. I told you about when I was taking the bus. I was traveling for basically almost 2 hours trying to get to a class, and then having to leave that class 30 minutes early so I could make it back to my base before curfew. I mean, I did that because it was something that I had to do, because I wanted to be able to set that example for my daughter. You know, she had her own struggles in high school. She had her own struggles with depression. I wanted to be able to show her that I'm not giving up, so you can't give up either. And because of that, you know, not only did she graduate from high school, but she got 6 college acceptances, and she's about to go into the she's working on getting into the honors program at Clark Atlanta University. She's doing that because I was able to hopefully give her that example that she needed, to show that she was smart, she did matter, she can do whatever she puts her mind to, and now she's doing that. So, I mean, that's one struggle. I think another struggle is just being confident. As much as I've been able to accomplish over the years, sometimes I have to remind myself that I don't have to be like everybody else. I said before, I had to remind myself that I've only been in business for 2 years. I found myself when I first started this company, I'm comparing myself to people who have been in business for 10 years, 15 years, and I'm thinking I have to do what they're doing. They've been out there. They've made their mistakes. I've got to make my mistakes. I can't be like everybody else. The other thing is, I might see another publicist who's doing great things, and why am I not doing that? Well, I can't do that. They do their business their way. I do my business my way. There was a publicist out there I heard was saying certain things about me, and I had to say, you know, we don't have to compete. What we do is 2 totally different things. I mean, and she said, you know, I know that now. And I'm not saying that we're the best of friends now, but we had to put it out there. We have 2 totally different missions. So I can't compare myself to everybody else, just like I can't let everybody try to get in my head and try to pit us against each other. We both have talk shows. We can support each other. I can tell everybody to watch your talk show, and it is not going to take away from people watching my talk show.
Absolutely.
We see that a lot with authors, with book signings. People will read more than one book. Just because somebody may have bought your book one day and they didn't buy my book does not mean that they're not going to go back and buy my book later. So why not, if they bought your book, why not I just give them a bookmark, so that way they can hold their place. They're going to look at that bookmark, and eventually they're going to buy my book too.
So we got to stop, hating on one another. Exactly. Everybody has an opportunity. Everybody has an opportunity, and we have to learn how to embrace our own uniqueness and share that with the world. Yes. But sometimes we often block each other because of the competition. You got this going on, you got that going on, but we can gel, we can all work together. We can accomplish, a common mission and share the world with each other. We don't have to fight each other to get our points across and try to get sales.
Absolutely.
We do better.
You're right, though.
We learn better, we do better. Yep. So, Dr. Lawson, let's talk about the groundbreaking anthology, The Color of Strength, Embracing the Passion of Our Culture, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated's Keeping It Finer, what it means to be a finer woman in the 20th century. Talk about that for us a little bit. Tell us all about that groundbreaking experience.
Okay, well, I'll start with, I'm glad you mentioned those 2, because we just finished talking about African-American history, and we started talking about women's empowerment, and both of those anthologies cover both of those things. So The Color of Strength is a very, very thick book. It's a pretty thick book, but there's so much wonderful, wonderful passion in that book. It's a collection of essays, short stories, and biographical sketches. And I learned so much. I haven't even read the entire book yet. I mean, because there's so much in the book. I'll go through and I'll read certain stories. I'll learn about different. I'll I'll go through the biographical sketches and learn about people who I didn't know a whole lot about. And I was really glad we did that because unfortunately, in school, people only hear about Martin Luther King. They might hear about Malcolm X, people like that. And so I enjoy that book because I get to learn about people that we don't hear about on a daily basis. The short story that I contributed was about a girl from New York who did not want to go to the South because she felt that the South still had a slave mentality, that they were backwards and this and that and the other, and she didn't want to go there, but she wound up going, and she learned to embrace her history and appreciate her history. So that was what my short story was about. And then there were essays. The essays were also about our history. So that book is actually still out there. I have quite a few copies myself, if anybody wants a copy. But that book is still out there. It's absolutely a wonderful textbook when you want to learn more about our history and our culture. Then there's Keeping It Finer. I love Keeping It Finer as well. I mean, I read that story, and some of those stories brought tears to my eyes when I was editing them, because they're all about they were about just being a finer woman, about our journeys toward being finer women. Because finer womanhood, that is something that if you say finer womanhood, you're going to find Zeta somewhere in that sentence, somewhere in that paragraph, because that's what we're all about. We always want our women to act as finer women. That is one of the qualifications to be a Zeta. You have to be a finer woman. But sometimes finer woman might mean things to different people, or sometimes it's hard to be a finer woman. I'm trying to do what I have to do, but the guy isn't looking at me. He's looking at the girl who may not be acting so finer because she seems a little bit more open, And so sometimes you feel like, I'm being a finer woman, but I'm over here by myself all the time. Maybe I need to do what she's doing. But no, you hold on to your beliefs, hold on to your ideals, hold on to your morals. And you'll find that may not have been the one for you. So there were so many different stories like that. Now, that's why I enjoyed it. But my favorite part of that anthology was we have women in our organization who have been in the organization for 50 years or longer. We call them Zeta Doves. And there was a section in the book from our Zeta Doves. They talked about being Zetas back in the 20s or in the 30s, the 40s. They talked about they talked about what it was like to be a finer woman, the lessons their mothers passed down to them when it came to being finer women. That is my favorite part of the book. And then there's another part of the book for our youth organizations. We asked them, what did it mean to be a finer woman? And there are all these little statements on what they felt was a finer woman. So that's a beautiful book. And it's not just for Zetas. It was written by Zetas, but any woman in the world can get something out of this. It's actually on Amazon. And you can also go to our website, our Centennial website, and you can find the book there as well.
Wow. Hopefully you can put a link to a few things when we come to the close of the show, because I would like to have everything that you're linked to, your website, the book, whatever it is that you want to put up, put the links in the comments for us so we can so anyone that watches the show, if they want to connect with you or purchase a book or whatever, obtain your expertise, maybe they can reach out to you right away. So we would love those links to be in the comments.
Absolutely.
Now, in my opinion, after listening to you talk this whole interview, reading all about you, learning more about you through your website, I consider you to be the epitome of a servant leader. Share with us what it means to be a servant leader in your community of influence.
I believe that it means that being a servant leader means that you're not always just sitting there basically on your throne telling everybody else what to do. It means that sometimes we have to get in there and get our hands dirty as well. One of my favorite positions that I have with my sorority chapter is being our outreach coordinator. Basically, we have a program called Zeta's Helping Other People Excel. And in that, we have so many different outreach programs, community service programs that we do. Now, I can sit there, and I've been president of a sorority chapter before. Not the specific chapter that I'm in now, but I've been president, and I was never that person that told everybody else what to do. If I was telling you what to do, I was in there doing it as well. I've always felt like I needed to lead by example, and I needed to not only lead, but I needed to teach, and I needed to be there for people. So if I found out somebody has something going on in their lives, whether it be a loss of a family member or maybe they were having trouble with something, I wanted to be there for them. And I think that that's a big part of being a servant leader. Okay, I see you, Sarah. But I think that's a big part of being a servant leader is leading by example, showing people that you care, and then showing that you're not above getting in there and doing it with them. It also means that sometimes you don't have to tell everybody you're the leader. You don't have to say, hey, I'm the president, I'm the such and such. I don't have to do that. Or I tell people I'm 25 years in the game when it comes to Zeta, but I only say that just a joke. I tell that to my sister all the time. I'm 25 years in the game. But you know what? If I see a soror needs a chair, I will get a chair for her. I'm not going to say, oh no, you've only been in the organization 2 years. You go get that chair yourself. Now, I do believe in deference, but at the same time, I want to jump in there and I want to help as well. We just elected a new president of our sorority, but and we did it right here in New Orleans. And as all of the Zeta chapters in the state of Louisiana were all getting together to stuff bags for that big conference, it's called the Boulay. It was so awesome because the president of our sorority was standing right next to us stuffing bags with us. And she didn't have to do that, but she did it and she hung with us. And then next thing you know, you saw more of our leaders from the organization. They were all jumping in and stuff. We had a lot of bags of stuff. We had like 5,000 bags. When they all jumped in.
A lot of people there, a whole lot of people.
But I think that's what it's all about, though. That's what being a servant leader is. Showing that you're not above getting your hands dirty. You're not afraid to get your hands dirty. You want to be there for the people who are with you. And I believe that when you do that, people are going to want to follow you. They're going to want to walk with you. They're going to want to be with you. Yeah, there are going to be some people out there who are going to take advantage of your kindness. There are going to be some people out there who think that because they think a different way that they're better than you. But you know what? You cannot change who you are because of people like that. Let them decide that they're going to change, and you just keep being the person that you're meant to be, that God meant for you to be.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So you have a couple of sorors on the line. I don't know if you know Vicky Pearson.
Yes.
Yep, that's my sister-in-law.
What?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And then you have President LaShonda Henderson. She's over the Fort Pierce chapter down in Florida.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, hey, Soros, how y'all doing?
So this has been a dynamic interview, and I have really learned a lot from you just sitting here in the last hour or so. And I know that this is going to be a blessing to many other people that decide to turn it on and watch it. But before I let you go, give us 3 powerful words to encourage other people, whether it's women, men that have assisted you along your journey, and three big powerful words that have stuck out to you along your way.
The first word is thank you. I've never been above saying thank you. If people have helped me along the journey, I will always say thank you to them. I say thank you for supporting. I always say thank you for seeing the vision. Thank you is a powerful thing. A lot of times people don't hear thank you enough. And so when somebody tells them thank you, you never know how you're going to affect that person. Another thing is confidence/boldness. Be confident in who you are. Be confident in your abilities. I remember one day I went to the House of Blues. No, was it the House of Blues? Yes, I went to the House of Blues, and while I was there, they had the band was playing, and then they started inviting people on the stage, and the man went down the line with the microphone, and he asked everybody to just sing a song. When he got to me, I was like, I just came up here, I don't sing, And when I got back down, a lady pulled me to the side. She said, "You should not have done that." She said, "You never know where your blessing is going to come from. And if maybe that was your time to sing." And, and I thought about that, always stuck with me. I was like, maybe I should have just sung a couple of lines. I said, you never know who's out there. You never know who could have been there to encourage me. And that always stuck with me. Did I miss out on something because I was not confident? And a lot of times I look back on things, I'm like, if I had been more confident and stuck to my guns, where would my life have been? Or where would I be right now? So always be confident in who you are and be confident in your abilities.
Amen. So you gave me thank you, confidence / boldness. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Was I supposed to give you one more?
One more.
Okay, one more. Beauty. And beauty is not just your face. Beauty is beauty on the inside. Mrs. Louisiana Universal 2019, Clarissa Newberry Lange. Beautiful person inside and out. I've only seen her upset one time, but this woman always walks around with a smile on her face. And she's the type of person who wants to see you win, and she will do everything she can to help you to win. I think that's the epitome of beauty. She's that person who is going to encourage you, and she'll tell you the truth, but she'll say it in a loving way. She's not saying things to hurt you, and she's not trying to say things to make you feel bad or to make you feel like she's more than what you are. She's just that person who's inside and out, a beautiful person, and wants to see the beauty in whoever it is that she's dealing with. And I think that just about every person who knows her could attest to that same thing. I think that's what beauty is all about. Beauty is not just being that beautiful face, and it's not even just being a nice person, but it's also about helping that other person strive for the best. And then you work along with that person, so both of you can win.
I believe too that your beauty comes from your heart condition. What is the condition of your heart? In this present day and age, we're harboring so many things that have hardened our hearts towards one another and toward issues in life. And oftentimes when you have a hardened heart, you turn out to be a horrible person. You may look beautiful on the outside, but you're a horrible person from the inside out.
Yes.
And so based on, our current heart condition, we need to, embrace our hearts and clean our hearts and, renew our hearts and ask God to restore our hearts, because we're all broken in some way, shape, or form. But we can't allow that to attack our heart condition until we have a heart attack. And it comes out as, curse words towards others and always frowning at other people and, picking on other people and stuff like that. So,
okay, good morning to somebody. It's not going to take away from your stature.
Yes. And once again, when we learn better, we do better. But we got to protect our hearts. We have to learn how to protect our hearts and to ask God to heal our hearts, because a lot of things have happened to a lot of people. I don't know one person that ain't went through something, so we have to be conscious of our heart condition. Amen to that. So, Dr. Lawson, tell us what you're up to these days. What's going on? What's your upcoming events?
All right. Well, I have a lot going on. So right now I am ghostwriting, believe it or not, a street fiction novel. Yes. So I'm ghostwriting that book. That one is almost done. I'm helping out a good friend of mine who didn't have time to write the book, so he asked me if I could write it. He gave me some guidelines, and I wrote the book for him. So that's the first thing that I'm doing. The next thing I'm doing, I just finished editing. Part of Meet the World Image Solutions is editing and helping her to get her work out. And she just told me that she just released the book with my edits. So I'm so happy for her. I can't wait to read it. And so I've been working with her. I'm also working with a wonderful couple. I call them a couple because they're co-authors. They're great people. Aset Rising and Obi Bell, they wrote a book together called Instructions Not Given, Building the Tribe, and it's all about successful co-parenting. These two are just absolutely wonderful, beautiful people, and I'm really happy to be representing them and helping them to get more exposure for their book. Um, the next event that I'm doing is going to be December 29th here in New Orleans. We're doing the NOLA versus Carolina chef battle. We have a local chef here in New Orleans named Wendell Randall, Chef Wendell Randall. He has challenged a celebrity chef, Chef Jerome Brown, and they are going to go head to head in an epic tailgate battle. And they're going to have a mystery ingredient. They're going to cook, and everybody who comes is going to be able to taste the food that they've cooked. It's going to be fun. One of our local DJs here, Wild Wayne, is going to be the host. And we're going to have door prizes. We're going to have music. We're just going to have a good time. And that the ticket cost is $45, but we are giving a 20% discount to military because both of our chefs are military veterans, and we wanted to be able to do something good for the veterans. And we actually are also bringing in 2 soldiers from Fort Polk, Louisiana, who are going to be sous chefs for the event. So we're looking forward to that. That's going to be December 29th. I'm looking for authors right now for our Black History Month Literary Weekend, which will take place February 22nd and 23rd. So if you are an author, you have a book and you would like to be featured during this, I mean, I'm talking book signings. I'm talking about being featured during our literary jazz brunch with a live jazz band. I'm going to take you to a national bookstore so you can get more sales that way. It's going to be a great event, and you're going to absolutely love it. So we're looking for at least 6 authors to participate in that. And we're also looking for 6 designers for our Night of Fashion, which is going to be the culminating event of the literary weekend. So if you are a fashion designer and you're in the Gulf Coast area, which is Louisiana, southern Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and you want to be a part of this event, give us a call. You can reach me at info@mtwimagesolutions.com. I will put that in the chat box. info@mtwimagesolutions.com. Just email me if you are interested in being a featured author or a featured designer during the Black History Month Literary Weekend. And that, I believe that's everything.
That was a lot. Make sure you include those flyers and stuff in the comments.
Yes,
if
ma'am.
you have flyers, website links, how everybody can reach out to you, because there's several people interested in talking with you and learning more from you. So I would greatly appreciate you putting up your information so people can contact you, because this was a very, very, very good interview.
Thank you
And
so
I'm
much.
excited now to be connected with you, and I'm just ready to learn more, and do more. So
Well, I would definitely love to stay in touch with you. I enjoyed talking with you as well. And let's connect. Let's stay connected.
amen. Amen to that. So thank you all who have joined us on the live line tonight. This has been a great interview tonight. And we're talking about, being an author and writing and, overall Meet the World Image Solutions LLC. But just to let you know, leaving you with this last little tidbit, writing is a medium of human communication that represents language and emotion with signs and symbols, letters, connecting them together to formulate sentences. In most languages, writing is a complement to speech or spoken language. Have you ever written your story down? Have you ever thought about your story? Have you ever told your story? Think about those questions. Ask yourself those questions and start writing your story. No one knows your story better than you. So be an advocate for you and tell your story. God bless you all. I thank you all for joining us on the live line tonight. If you have any questions, please type them in the comments, and Dr. Lawson is more than willing and able to answer those questions for you. We have about 2 minutes left. So if you have questions that you would like to ask, please go ahead and ask those questions at this time. Other than that, please like, share, and follow. Please share this interview out with others. It will be on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Awesome.
At the conclusion of the show. So I don't see any questions popping up.
Yeah, I think some people made comments during the show, so I'm going to go back through and respond to those.
Anything you want to leave us with, Dr. Lawson?
You said it all when you said write your book. And don't, I tell people all the time, people think that the hardest part of the book process is writing the book. That's the easy part. Write your story down. Everybody has a story, and right now, don't worry about getting it exactly right. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Just write it down, because you can always go back and refine it later. But right now, just that story that's in your head that you think you can't do, stop telling yourself you can't do it, because the devil will never tell you anything positive. He's always going to give you some type of seed of doubt. So push past that, write your story, get it out there, and then continue to encourage people. Because you may think that you're in one place, but your story is so encouraging to somebody else who may not be where you are. So continue telling your story and be a blessing to other people.
Amen. Well, that wraps up our time on the show this evening. Somebody said they love you. Beverly, she said she loves you.
I love you too, Beverly. And you better not come back to New Orleans without talking to me.
Well, I thank you all for joining us. Please like, share, and follow, and keep God first. God bless. Dr. Lawson, stay right there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. I would like to thank all my followers and listeners for tuning in to today's show. You have been listening to Walking in Your Purpose, Thursday night at 8 with Lens of Faith. Connect with me now. I want to hear from you. Please like, share, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lens of Faith Speaks. God bless.